All right. Now, Bill, I'll quickly jump to Oracle Datapump, guys, because that's the topic which is pending. The Oracle Datapump architecture is something that's missing out of the equation, and I want you guys to know about Oracle Datapump architecture. And for that, I will pick up Paint. Sorry, guys, if I'm speaking pretty fast because I'm so excited to come back and meet you all, plus getting back to Oracle, because if I stay away from my system for like 1 week, I don't know, I feel bad about it. So Oracle Data Pump, guys, Oracle Data Pump architecture is not that important, but it's good to know thing. And even from certification standpoint, and also when it comes to how your data pump works, you need to know the architecture. So when it comes to data pump, this is just theory part, guys, and I think you will enjoy this part. In data pump, we have some components, and these components are the ones which actually work together to perform an export or an import. So the first one is client process. Guys, apologies for my writing. The second one is shadow process. The third one would be MCP, that's master control process. And MCP, this is little important. I'm putting a star because if sometimes in an interview they might ask you what is an MCP. And then the final one, we have worker process. All right, I'll quickly walk you through with each process and how and what they do. So client process is same as, if you remember our Oracle architecture. Let me take you to the Oracle architecture so that it's easy for you. Can you see this user process? This is actually on a user machine. The same way when you start the data pump utility like EXPDP, whether it is on the same server, the Oracle server, or you're initiating it from a remote server, then it becomes a client process, like the exact person or the user who fires the EXPDP or IMPDP utility. That becomes a client process. The shadow process is very simple, guys, like how we have server process on the server which gets the work done and gives the output to the user process. The same way in data pump also, the shadow process is responsible to execute the EXPDP or IMPDP on the server. All right, now because most of the times we DBAs work on the same server where database is installed, so these two processes are initiated on the same server. I mean, we can't differentiate it. Of course, I can give you one example. Don't worry if some of you, if you're not able to relate to what I'm saying. So still, let's take, we have a couple of machines, and we have Oracle Enterprise Manager, OEM. Let's say we have 13C that is installed on a separate machine. All right, so from this machine you initiate EXPDP, right? And this is running on the server. So from your 13C server you initiate EXPDP, which is triggered on server 1. So in this case what happens is the client process is initiated on a different machine, right? Because on OEM server you fired EXPDP, so the EXPDP client process is initiated over here, but on server 1 the shadow process will be initiated. So it's like same client and server process. There's nothing new in it. The next one is, which is very important, that's master control process. Now what is this master control process? So guys, like your EXPDP, IMPDP, we need to have a control on how the process is going on. How? See guys, pay attention to what I'm saying. It is not what. Okay, I'm not talking about what, I'm saying how the process is going on. Process is working. When I say what, it means it deals with data, like what data is being exported, what data is being imported. No, the master control process is strictly about your export job or the import job, like what is the name of the job, what parameters are defined by the user, what percentage of job is completed, how much import has been done, how much export has been done, everything about the export and import. So it deals with the data or mechanism which is related to the progress about the export and import. So the master control process, it controls the entire execution of the data pump jobs. So you might have a question like, okay, it is controlling like the entire execution of the data pump, right? So controls execution. I'm writing it because these things are pretty important. So controls execution of data pump jobs, right? In this case, guys, let's assume you are running an export and it's 50% complete and your system crashes. In this case, when you restart your system, the master control process knows the data pump job is 50% complete. So what it can do is it can start right away after the 51 percentile and complete it to 100%. So that's the job of master control process. It looks over the progress about the data pump jobs, right? That's master control process. And also the MCP, like it stores the stats and sorry, it stores the stats about, of course, about the progress, and also it looks at the start and stop of the worker process. So MCP is responsible to initiate the worker processes and to start and stop the worker processes. Now what are worker processes, we'll understand in a minute. So when it comes to data pump architecture, the main important process that you should know is MCP, master control process. All right. Now the question is, which process in the data pump actually puts the data onto the dump file? It is the worker process. Okay, I'll put it like this. So whenever you start EXPDP or IMPDP, what happens is the first master control, of course, you have a client process, shadow process, then master control process is initiated, which controls or have the detail about your export or import job, and then master control process will initiate the worker process. So the job of worker process is to technically take the buffers from the data files. If you do not specify direct equal to y, the buffers will go to database buffer cache, and from there they are put onto the dump file, right? And that's the job of the worker process. So guys, just for your idea, like I'm not sure if this will ever be an interview question. What is the background process for master control process would be DM, and for worker would be DW. I'm not sure if somebody asked this question, but one student, he asked me this question, like around in an interview they asked me what is the background process for worker process. I think it would be DWNN. What is NN? If you have multiple worker processes, then it will be like DW01, DW02. Likewise, multiple processes will be initiated. Till now, all good, but there is one point which I want to mention is, so if I say like multiple worker processes, does that mean I can increase the worker processes to speed up the export or import? The answer is yes. So what happens is in your export or import, you have again a parallel, sorry, Parallel, parallel parameter, parallel equal to 2. So if you specify the parallel parameter, by default, one worker process will be initiated. But if you define parallel parameter and if you say 2, then master control process MCP will initiate 2 worker processes, and you can of course increase it based on your requirement. But guys, always do not over utilize these things if not required, because they take a lot of system resources, they take a lot of CPU. So let's take, if you have 1 GB file, don't try to allocate like 10 parallel processes. I mean, it's ridiculous. So try to be reasonable, try to go with maybe 2 parallel processes or 3 max to max for this kind of file. And if you have more file, then be reasonable. Don't try to abuse the system if you have, because I've seen a lot of junior DBAs do things like this. So that's about data pump architecture. So guys, any doubts in it before I move on to one more topic which is related to data pump architecture? That's master table.
Arun, Francis here again. Sorry about that.
No problem, Francis. Just to let you know,
how
Francis.
The worker process, the number of worker processes correlate to the number of files generated when you do the data pump?
Yes, correct. Yes, you're right. So let's take, if you have 3 parallel processes, then 3 dump files will be generated.
Okay.
Yeah. So your assignment for this one, because I have an assignment for you, is to read about this parallel parameter, because when you read about it, that will definitely tell you parallel parameter. If you have 3, then you will have 3 dump files that are created in the output. So I think in your assignment, when you read about parallel parameter, you will know more.
Okay.
All right. And Francis,
also,
I'll tell you
one more thing. So you said for the direct clause, basically it just dumps straight from the buffers, right? So if the data, for example, if you use a query on the export dump and the data doesn't exist in the buffers, what does it do? It will still go to the data files to pull them, correct?
100%. See, by default, the worker process will always pull the data from the data files, put it into buffer if it is not available, and from buffers it pushes into the dump file. But if you use direct equal to y, it will ignore the RAM, it will ignore the instance, it will pull up the data from data files and directly push into the dump files. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
No problem. So one thing, Francis, I want to tell you, like one of my close friends, his name is also Francis, and I speak to him every day almost. He is taking care of my company in US.
Okay.
I mean, just to let you know, like I own one company in US also. So
okay.
He is he's the one who takes care of the company over there in my absence. So
oh, great.
like,
which part of the US is he in?
it's in New York, Buffalo, and
oh, okay.
Yeah, we chose Buffalo because it's tax free. So
okay. All right.
amazing. Great. So guys, any other doubts if you have inside the data pump architecture, let me know. It's actually a cool concept, you know. I somehow enjoy data pump, but honestly, guys, I don't enjoy data pump activities. If an environment is having export import, I feel um pretty much not inspired to do those activities. I don't know why, but looking at the architecture, understanding the architecture, it's all awesome. Yes, Satish.
Yeah, can you please repeat that worker process again?
Oh, all right, I'm coming to it, because in the next topic in the master table, we'll be understanding about the worker process.
Thank you.
All right. So like the master control process that we have, like MCP, this is responsible to take care of the entire export or import job. Okay, it takes care of the job, but it does not do execute or do the job, right? So I'll write it, takes care of export/import. But when it comes to the exact process which performs the export or import, that's the worker process. So what can be the job of a worker process when it comes to export? So the job of a worker process would be to read from, sorry guys, I think this pen tab is acting weird. You can see my writing getting even worse. Give me a minute, let me disconnect and reconnect it. So read from, okay, it's still same. So guys, I'm sorry for this, but we'll continue for now. So read from, sorry, export, right? So read from data file and then export it into dump file. All right, this is the job of worker process when it comes to export. In an import, it is reversed. In an import, it will read from the dump file and then perform inserts into the data file or the table where you are performing the import. So the worker process changes, but guys, like the overall picture is a little bit different, even in the architecture. There is one thing that you need to understand. There is something called as master table. So what is this master table? Even before your data pump can export or put entire data into the dump file, what happens is, see, the user that initiates the export import, let's take if you're practicing and you're using the sys user initiates an export exp dp. All right, so the sys user when initiates the export utility, internally inside Oracle, a master table is created in the same schema which is actually using the utility. So inside this sys-user, a master table will be created. So what exactly is this master table? So this master table is actually the key for data pump's job restart. Remember I mentioned, like, if there is a crash, let's take if it is 50% or 80%, then from where Oracle gets to know the details about the progress. So this MCP, that's a master control process, this process actually uses your master table to write the details about the job, about the export, about the import, or any job that you do. So what happens is this master table is created when the job is initiated, whether it is export or import, and it is dropped or deleted when your job is completed. So that way, if you like, let's take if the job is 50% complete and there is a crash, when you start the database, Oracle knows that there is a master table inside the database. That means there is a job which is incomplete, that is only 50%. So what it does is it completes the job. Of course, you need to initiate it. There are different methods to do it. It completes the job and then drops the master table. So this master table is responsible to store the details about the progress of your export or import, and the process that is responsible to write in the master table is MCP. So MCP, master control process, uses a master table, and in the master table it stores the job progress or everything about the job. So even like your master table will also have the details of your worker process, what is the progress, like whether it is 50% or 100%, and then dump file locations and other details like whatever parameters you specified while initiating the export or import. So this master table is pretty important, guys. Because of this master table is how Oracle knows the progress of your uh, data pump. So guys, for all the experienced DBAs, let me quickly check one article for you. Like, I have a script on the support which will tell you the progress of the data pump export and import. So let me just see if it is available. Data pump. Check data pump export progress. Can you see this one? So this query, let's take in your environment, you have an export running, and your client says, can you tell me what percentage of export is completed? Then you can use this query. This is for all the experienced DBAs, and I generally use this one. It gives me the details about what is the percentage complete in an Datapump export environment. So that's about Datapump architecture, guys. What you need to know is the yes, Sridhar.
Uh, yeah, maybe after you finish, I'll ask my question. Or I can wait.
No, I'm almost done. You can say it like that.
Okay. I have three questions actually. They're pretty much similar. And the first question is when we are using Datapump export and import. So while importing, so how row IDs impacts, like see we row IDs for example, we take the data from production and we import it to test environment, and,
Right.
and the row ID that we already imported, and how would the test instance knows that okay, this row ID already there, it's not be used. How that works actually? I'm a little confused with that actually.
Right. I'll ask you a question in this, just to know your understanding. Like, what do you understand by row ID, and what exactly is row ID?
Row ID is it's a hexadecimal, and within Oracle, for every record it inserts, it gives a identification. Using that row ID only, Oracle engine can access the with row actually the data.
Perfect. Perfect, right. So Sridhar, like very simple answer. So in this case, let's take if you are importing from production, if you export, the row IDs become invalid because the row ID in the production is the exact location on your hard disk where the row is stored, right? So when you are moving the data from production to a different server, the row IDs become invalid because there is no point in using the same row IDs, because on the target system it might be stored in a different location. So row ID is completely different when it comes to different system. I'll give you one example. Let's take you created two servers exactly identical. You created on the exact date. I'm assuming a scenario which I don't know if it is possible or not, but I'm still trying. So exact servers, you installed Oracle on this, you installed Oracle on this, you created a table, and the schemas are same, everything, all the stats are kept same. Still, the row ID will be different on both the servers. Now, this happens because the way the systems want to store the data, like when your hard disk spins, the cylinder, the sector, where exactly it has to be stored. So, like I just want to come out of all that. To simply answer your question, the row IDs become invalid, and when the insert is done into your target system, a new row IDs will be allocated to all the inserted records on the target database.
Okay. Extending to that, so developers uses the like some analytical functions with the row ID. So, so for which is fine in the production, and it works based on the latest record inserted and all. But when we are coming to the test instance, so you said like all the row IDs from production are invalid. So how would Oracle knows, so which one is the head of how which one is the latest one? I think that's we are getting some issues in there. Developers should not be using row ID with the analytical function for comparison purpose, but
I think it depends. Like, see what you're saying. I mean, for to answer that question, I would definitely want to see the code, and until then, I won't be able to answer like how they are working. But uh, to the point that you mentioned, like developers should not use row ID. It depends. Like they might be testing some different scenario, like in it depends. Like they can definitely use row IDs, but again, the scenario and business case, I would want to know why actually they are using row IDs, which is like a debatable again. And then if they are using row ID, what is the purpose? If they are checking the performance, I think they should not actually use the row IDs. Again, there might be a business case. I would want to know more if you can get more details about that part.
Okay, sure, I can next time. And the next question is regarding the block headers or SEN numbers, how that gets changed when we are refreshing from production to test.
Can you describe more about the question? Yeah.
So in the production environment, for every block header will be with updated, and it is in sync with in the control file and with the transactions that we applied, right?
Correct.
The SEN numbers. So when we are refreshing, so how these will get changed, or whether these get changed with that new SEN number, or how these get, that's what I just wanted to understand that portion.
No, it's very simple. The target system will write the new SEN number of the target system, because when you are moving the data, the old SEN number and all those details become completely invalid, because there is no point in using those details. On the target system, you have to sync the entire system with the target SCN. So what it does is, when the records are written into the blocks, when the records are written into the blocks, it will update with the latest SCN of the target system. So it has nothing to do with the row IDs. I think that's a very intelligent question. The row IDs and the SCN numbers become invalid when you move the data.
Okay. So I was trying to relate actually. So the system generated IDs will not be replicating actually. They will become invalid and they will be regenerating when we do the refresh. Am I correct?
Of course, because you are handing over the data from one system to the other system. So it definitely will be a different number as per the target system.
So when coming to the sequences, so do we need to sequences? I mean, logically they should be same. Like when we are refreshing, so when we recreate the sequence, also it should pick whatever the sequence number is being used, and it should pick from next value, right? Technically.
Correct. Yes, I think it should be that way, but my personal experience with sequences, Sridhar, is very bad. Whenever I work with sequence, I don't know why they tend to generate some random numbers. That's my personal experience. So for sequences, I would suggest, do not try to export, import, or work with sequences on refreshing the sequences, because sequences are pretty much attached to the local system. Even though these systems are having a same sequence number, for example, like in this server, the sequence number is 101, and in this server also 101. And when you try to refresh using rman, or you're using any other method, the problem is, that's my personal experience, I don't know about you, I have always faced problems.
Actually, exactly like you, we also having some issues. Our development team, they have some scripts. I never got a chance to look and review them. But so what they're saying is, when I do the refresh, actually I have automated process that does the refresh. And when it completes, and they're gonna run that manually, the scripts that will take care of the sequences. So, but for past we used to have that issues actually. So we definitely have to refresh the data, because sequences that we used in production, they are like primary keys in some of those tables. But coming to that target environment, I think they are doing some workaround, but we are running into some issues. So that's why I asked that question.
I would suggest you to look at their code, because sequences, I mean, my experience is very bad with sequences, and couple of times I found like the development team had a problem in the code. So I would suggest you to look at the code first, and then only take an action. Like, don't do a guesswork with sequences.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thanks for clearing row IDs. Other one.
No problem. No problem. Any other questions, guys, because this is closely related to Oracle utilities, I wanted these topics to be cleared, so that because these are important from interview standpoint, these are also good for your knowledge.